Hey, I'm Charlie,
I'm Alan.
and this is Shift Slash, a podcast where we are documenting our experience, building our studio pragmatics, and all the things that we go through trying to figure out how to get it started. So, what are we talking about today?
Talking about the sexiest subject of all, cash flow and Excel sheets.
It's not the sexiest thing in the world, and for some people who are not used to maybe spreadsheets, you're thinking, holy crap, this is so complex. But actually, we didn't build this. This is a template we took from Shopify, and it's called Cash Flow Projection. And they have a template that you can click here and you'll get it for free. And it looks like this when you get it. And then we just made very slight modifications to it. But effectively, what this sheet does is it tells you every month how much cash you have in your bank. So if you're looking here, in January, let's say you start your business with $1,000 investment. That means you have $1,000 to spend from January. And so you can think of the sheet as like a zigzag. So if I was to pull up a pen here, it kind of goes like this, all the way down. And then as you get to the bottom of it, it zigzags back up and down. So if you look in April, you start with $1,500 and you go down, you make revenues, then you spend money. This is where your profits are. And then when you get to the closing cash balance here, you go back up and that's the cash balance you have here. So because here we have 1,500 and then it goes all the way down, we made no profits and no losses. We still have 1,500 at the end of this month. So we go back up and we have 1,500 for May. So this way you know how much cash you have every month and whether or not you can be alive that month or if you're in debt that month.
I mean, it's a very simple spreadsheet, but it really is a necessary exercise, I think, to kind of get an idea of where you really need to be, like having a real conversation based in actual numbers about how much you each expect to get paid, how much you need to live over the course of a year.
Right.
You have to figure out how much you're gonna have to generate as a studio.
Yeah, totally. So maybe it would be interesting to go to like our version, which is only very slightly modified, honestly. So we deleted all that text on top, kind of zoomed in a little bit. We put a separate like line entry for each of our clients. And then that's really the main thing. The other thing I added was professional fees as fixed costs because we have an accountant.
There's the legal fees of just incorporating, and also, I mean, if you're two people creating a shareholders agreement, accounting. One of the things that was kind of really fascinating for me was to see all the fees associated with starting a business prior to that business starting.
It's interesting because obviously, like when we think about this, I feel a lot of people maybe start with revenues and how much money you want to make. But I tend to find that starting with the costs makes more sense. Realistically, like what are the costs involved? Granted, with a studio, the costs tend to be quite low.
Accounting fees is something
That's true.
As a business
That's true.
Is really something that you have to pay like on a monthly basis.
That's true.
Typically, you want to have an accountant, and that can, over the course of a year, it's like whatever, 2-3 grand.
Yeah, so let's say it's just like $200 a month, right?
And then like software costs, like let's say just a basic one, like
banking. Banking.
Yeah.
That's
banking is
$5 a month.
Banking is $5 a month. Yeah. Totally. And then I think Figma. How much is Figma a month per?
Yeah, so Figma is like per user, exactly. So it's 50, like almost $15 a month. So let's just say 30. So we'll start with that, and then we also pay for like the accounting software. So that's like 30 plus. It's the accounting thing is also around like $35. Plus like the payroll thing, which is another $30. So that's already like $90 a month. Oh yeah, and then we use Google like email thing, which is like 15.
Yeah.
So it's basically like
$100 a month.
Yeah, let's call it like $120 a month in software in reality. But the biggest cost for a studio, that's payroll. This one here.
Yeah, I mean payroll accounts for the majority of a company's profits, and it makes sense, right? They exist mainly to pay people.
Let's say like just as a start, I don't know, like where we'd be happy with making like $60K a year in our first year, or like in our first kind of fiscal year. So like March to March, that's like $5,000 a month. That's 10,000 if we multiply that by 2, right? So we can take this 10,000 and just drag it out all the way to December. And we can see how like now the opening cash balance is like an increasing negative number.
Yeah.
And now this is amazing because like on the one hand, like all this red, but all this red gives you a sense of like, okay, crap, like I need to make this much. And I mean, we have savings, so maybe we can afford to pay ourselves less in the beginning, 3,000 each, so 6,000 here. And then like we'll do that for a couple of months. And then maybe in June we can like reward ourselves a little bit. And then we get to like our desired number, right?
Yeah, I mean, the point of this is really not like it depends on your cash flow.
Right.
But I think it's better to honestly start with the ideal, and then once we start adding clients, that's when you start to make the adjustment because there's no real reason at this stage to know.
And I feel like people look at these things and they think they have to like nail it or they have to abide by the rules or whatever. But in reality, it's like as much a prototyping experience as any other part of our process.
And this is it's nice because it's more scary.
Yeah, exactly. So now we're gonna be 89,000 in debt by the end of the year.
Sweet.
Yeah. So going to revenues, I think this is where things get exciting for us because now we can start to like dream about like all the wonderful clients are going to have.
Yeah.
So let's see. So we started in March. We were incorporated in March. You come in with your own client, like we did, like with existing clients, like we did. Granted, we didn't necessarily like move them onto the company, but we could have.
Totally.
So if we did, maybe like maybe like each of these contracts was like worth like $6,000, like $3,000, and so like we could have opened the company with like $6,000 right away. But then decided that like maybe, now we want to like find other kinds of work or, the maybe one of these contracts was coming to a close. And so then we only keep one of them for the month after. And then that's it. Like that supply is kind of dead. And I'm putting them both in client one, but maybe I'll just do it like this. And those are like kind of the first two kind of that we grandfathered in, and then they're done, right? We finished the work, the contracts ended, and what's cool right now is we can already see the cash flow. There's no more negative, like we're in the clear with just this until May. So we kind of bought ourselves May to find work. If we find no one in March, no one in April, we won't be in debt until May, and we paid off the $1,000 legal fee up front. So you'll see here, even though we're making losses in April, we're still cash positive. Like we have a cash balance that's positive in May. You're more looking at the closing cash balance down there to see when you're in trouble.
Okay, so let's say we were to take these clients in, for example. Maybe it takes 3 to 6 weeks to sign a new client.
So we signed someone on in April.
Yeah, we signed someone on in April for a recurring 3K.
Okay, like a 6-month agreement.
Yeah, exactly. Let's say 6 months. And how are we doing? So let's look at the net profit and stuff or net.
Yeah. So really interesting, right? Like we're still negative in May.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? So now it's like maybe a race. Now we need to get like another client like this, right?
Yeah. And then we have a couple of weeks, we get another one, we say 3K again. Now we're managing 2 clients.
And now maybe this one we can get for another 6 months.
Yeah.
And so it starts to stagger like this. And if we go down, we can see that now we're in the negative on the closing in June.
And let's say we get really lucky for whatever reason and we make another 3K
in May.
In May.
And then we drag that out for maybe this one's a bit shorter.
Yeah, totally.
So just 4 months.
So one of the things to think about now is as you're taking these contracts, right? They have individual needs, they have specific problems, they all require a lot of your attention. So how are you dividing your time up,
Yeah.
Because at this stage, we never really go over an opening cash balance of 5K in the bank.
And the problem is
Yeah.
like realistically, we probably want to end up being positive. I mean, we can just as an experiment here see like even if we add this, we're still negative in December. And then
Yeah.
even if we do like let's say then we say okay fine in June we'll take 5 clients and we'll
Yeah.
like take them on this long.
That's
Yeah,
actually
there's
six
eight.
clients.
That's it. There's 8,000 in the bank, but we're like running 5 clients
Yeah.
for like 3 months, and then
Well, I mean, that's really where the conversation happens, and you have to find your capacity.
right,
And for us, 5 clients is way too many. And even if you reduce the amount you work for them, you have to think of the cost of managing projects, and the cost of trying to juggle multiple clients, which is a really serious cost. We want to work hard and we care about what we're doing, but we decided to start this thing to make us happy, not to make us miserable.
and also there's something to be said about the effort that goes into sales. One thing that I feel a lot of freelancers and maybe small studio people that want to start a small studio have expressed to me in the past is, or rather not expressed to me, but I noticed is that they don't think of that as a cost. They think of it as like, oh yeah, I'll just like spend some time finding a client. Yeah, but like if it takes you, if you're selling your hourly rate at $150, every hour you go out and do sales in is $150, like it's $150 of cost, right? For example,
Yeah.
if you're juggling 5 clients, Alan and I need to like meet on the side, right? You and I have to sit there and go open a process management tool and then go, okay, what are you gonna do this week? What am I gonna do this week? And it's work. It's work to
Long-term
juggle.
planning,
Yeah.
making sure you're hitting deadlines, making sure you're checking in at the right point with each different client. That's a really big cost.
Yeah.
And the clients and the number of clients you take is at the end of the day a philosophical decision.
Right.
I think you and me are aligned in this, Charlie, is that we want to, when we take on a client, really invest time and energy into that client,
Right.
and really kind of feel like we're part of their team.
Yeah.
A supporting member of their team, and
Right.
and those type of relationships take a lot of energy. I mean, they just
100%.
do, so that's something that we had to consider as well,
Yeah.
in costing everything out.
Doing this exercise, I think, also gives you a sense of, is this what you want to do, right? Like, do you want to juggle? I think that's what it boils down to is, yes, there are agencies out there where you just kind of onboard tons and tons of clients and you set up a very sort of inhuman, sort of distant process. Just give us tasks, we'll do them, and you run the machine, right?
Yeah.
But I think we're working with thorny problems. We get hired to help people figure out what a product should look like at all. Maybe a client's introducing a new product. Maybe they're like redoing their branding and they need someone to really like sit down and discuss things with them. That work takes time. And I think we'd rather, maybe you get like a $10,000 client somewhere.
Yeah.
And you put a lot of time into it, but you can get this for like a few months like that. And then you onboard someone else here for like $7,000.
Yeah.
And then somehow you agree to an end of the year retainer. You see that?
Yeah.
$29,000 at the end of the year. Everything else is still fixed. 2 clients. You have weekends. You have evenings.
Yeah.
And you work
We're
part-time, half-time for each of them,
Yeah.
for example.
Yeah. I mean, you distribute the time and energy according to the needs of the client.
Yeah. We do this, something like this, and then like only in August we onboard someone else for another like 8,000. Whatever. Right? And then maybe, and then we know we're good. Right?
Yeah.
We know we're
And
good. Maybe like
here, if you ever need an influx of cash, you can always do shorter term projects.
True. And again, like this is like ideal, right? Maybe if we're lucky, this goes on for a whole year. But let's say it doesn't, right? Let's say this one ends like this. And like Alan said, we can like score a nice kind of 1 week sprint contract where something very specific was needed for like a $5,000 over here. And that's great, you know, just once, and that's fine. Maybe you get another one over here, and that's kind of cool too.
Exactly. And you can manage your workloads to plan for those type of things.
Yeah.
And essentially what this showed us is it's worth the effort to invest in relationships with long-term clients where we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the whole process, which requires more hours. It is a better investment. This whole thing is an interesting philosophical experiment at the end of the day. I know it's real kind of tangible numbers, but playing around is where you start to figure out like, well, what do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
How much do I want to do it for? And how many clients do I want to be working with? These are conversations that are really important early on.
Yeah. So, yeah, this was something that Alan and I really kind of thought was awesome and fun to do. Well, fun. It grounded us. It was fun for us, you know, but I don't think everyone will find it fun. Yeah, I guess we'll see you guys next week.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
I don't know, like we've been alive for 43 days.
Yeah.
And
It sounds like we're surviving on like a desert island.
it's a bit like that, man. It's a bit like that.